Hello, greetings from Eastham, Cape Cod. It's about 100% humidity here, so we're gonna have a devil of a time waiting for things to dry. I'm gonna do one of my most favorite exercises. It's an exercise where I experiment with all different values, everything from butter consistency on down through cream, milk, coffee to tea. And within those values, we're going to do transparency. We're going to play around with some table salt. We're going to use a little liquid resist. We're going to do some sponging with some paper towels. We are going to do some splattering. We are going to do some drawing with the end of a paintbrush or a stick, whatever you've got laying around. We're going to work on bleeds. We're going to do wet on wet, wet on damp, damp on damp, wet on dry. Pretty much any value you can do. So here we go. Got to make a bunch of pigment ahead of time. So I've got some sap green. I've got, try not to spill it, sap green, Prussian blue, yellow, some rose. It's always good to have some neutrals. I always like to use some Payne's Gray and some Van Dyke Brown or ochre. So let's dig in. Well, I've got my paper taped down because, like I said, everything is pretty wet. The paper's like fabric. Since a white piece of paper can be kind of intimidating, I wanted to make a cheat sheet of some of these blob experiments that I have done before. This one here and this one here. And this one here are mine. And for students, I've labeled the effects, the transparencies, the bleeds, kiss colors, wet on dry, cauliflowering. I also noticed that when you look at framed art, there are a lot of basically blob experiments that are selling for quite a lot. I'm sorry I can't credit the artists, but if you just Google framed art blobs, you'll find these pieces. I like how some of the artists have gone on top of their blobs with some drawing. And this one has quite a bit. And then I also really like these ones that look like totems. So with that, I can just glance at it to make sure I don't forget any of my techniques. So I'm going to start with one of my very favorites. I'm not going to draw, I'm just going to go. And that is, try to use dirty water. I'm painting just a little too dirty, just with water. A nice circle. And I'm going to introduce some Prussian blue, some sap, and I'm introducing, kind of like cream weight. Some turquoise light. And let's just leave it and see what happens. Then I'm going to do wet on dry. I'm going to grab some rose. Maybe I'm going to do some totems. Well, there's my hand dragging through. So this is pretty much tea right here. So I'm going to grab some violet. This was what you would call wet on wet. And boy, that violet disperses fast. Since I already have a blob of sap green here, I'm going to make an oval. And I'm going to leave that alone. And when that's perfectly dry, I'm going to do another tea level color on top to show a really nice transparency. So back to the drawing board. Let's grab some Payne's Gray. And very, very, very wet. Let's throw in a little salt. Now this is rock salt. So you're going to see some really interesting effects there. Let's bring in some Scarlet Lake mixed with rose. Make myself a nice big heart here. A little dog hair, never hurts. You can do any shape you want. You can do hearts, you can do blobs, you can do flowers, you can do leaves. Fish. Fish would be really cool. I'm darkening the edges. We're just going to see how this bleed works. So this is wet on wet. You're getting a lot of movement here. I'm going to let it dry a little bit so it's damp. And then we'll show you what wet on damp looks like. Now I want to make a really big Prussian blue. Let's just go over here. Kind of a rounded square. And let's sponge a little up. I'm going to pause for a second because I forgot to get some saran wrap ready. That's another technique I want to do in this project, so hang on. Back with the saran wrap. So I have a piece of really crappy store brand saran wrap, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that. So let's make something big. Go back to my violet. I'm going to let this touch the red. You'll notice as you go along, some colors bleed better than others. Some of them are really fast. Some of them really bolt. Okay. I'm going to tear this. You just press it down. You want some wrinkles, and I'm going to just leave it. Let it dry. I think that's dry enough to go over. Try some transparency. I'm going to use a really, really thin turquoise. I'm going to tap in a little bit more because I don't think it needs to be quite this thin. There we go. So I've got a lot of this on my brush. You can probably hear the wind. It's very, very windy here. Windy, damp, rainy. A good day to be inside in my little princess shed, making blobs. Let's see, what do I want to do now? I think I want some more salt over here because we've got really thick puddles of paint. I'm gonna grab some cobalt. Well, it's cobalt mixed with a little bit of Prussian. And we're going to do a wet on wet kiss. A wet kiss. We're going to let this one kiss Let these colors kiss. See which one's the fugitive color. And you can use gravity if you want. It's interesting that this cobalt does not want to go into the turquoise, but the turquoise wants to go into the cobalt. What does it mean? This little guy feels lonely up here. Need some bright red. That is one of my favorite reds, Scarlet Lake. And you can see that this one was not finished drying, so we're getting a little wet on damp action here. I feel like I need some bright yellow. Nice golden yellow. Let's do a big golden yellow sunshine here. So all around it, we're going to grab some orange. And while it's wet, some orange blobs. Now the yellow was very much like butter, but we're getting some cool bleeds. I'm digging this orange. I'm gonna do a nice big orange oval. And maybe right next to it, I'm gonna grab some cardinal red, which is much more opaque. Look at that luscious color. Ooh, that's pretty. And another thing I said I would do, I'm going to lay down some resist. It's just liquid mask. You want to use a really crappy old brush and get your brush wet and then get it all goopy with soap so you can clean it off. And I'm going to just maybe do some swirls. Very creative there, Jenny. I'm trying not to dip my hand. It's going to take a while for this to dry. And you don't want to use a dryer on your liquid mask because it makes it almost impossible to take off your paper. And you don't want to tear your paper. So I'm going to get a very light. I really like this image here where they've got some very, very tonal dots in all different values. So maybe I'll do that right here. That's a really pale Prussian blue. Now I'm going to grab more pigment. That's what I love about Prussian blue. It's almost like when you do the tea to coffee exercise, I'm sorry, the tea to butter exercise, you really get a variety. Now I'm going to go ultramarine. Oh, I think I'm going to go very light ultramarine. And if you run out of space in your palette, grab another palette. Thicker. We've got cream here. I'm going to try just putting a blob of indigo right in the middle of that. Maybe it'll show up better here on the cobalt. Let's do, indigo is really pretty. And it's not bleeding into my red. I'm a little surprised. But remember how I said that the cardinal red was pretty opaque? That could be why. I'm grabbing some Prussian. Let's go really. I want it to be more like tea. This is starting to become a blue story. Let's mix it up and add some turquoise. Then I've got a darker turquoise. I'm going to flip my brush around. You can't really see what I'm doing. I'm gouging the paper. So let me go over it again. Maybe you can see it. I'm lifting a little. You use a damp brush and just lift. That's interesting. What do I want to do now? Oh, we're missing pink. Grab a sponge, a little natural sponge, dampen it, wring it out. Boy, I could almost fill this whole page. Let's flip it over on its head. Opera Rose is what this is. It's very raw on its own, so I'm adding a touch of Scarlet Lake. And now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some Opera Rose mixed with rose, and I'm going to just brush it on. Get some neat texture here. I colored outside the lines, but that's okay. Maybe I've got another blob here. Maybe they'll all connect. I think, surprisingly, my liquid mask, I believe, I'm going to give it a little bit more time. I'm going to do a little splatter. And good luck containing that within within an object. No need. I'm just going to mix all my reds and pinks and purples together and see what I get right here. Kind of a nice, yummy wine color. I didn't think that would make a good transparency, but it's not bad. Now let's continue with the blue experiment. I will grab some ultramarine. And make a bridge. So you're getting a little bit of damp, wet on damp here with my Prussian. And then over here with the indigo. The indigo was pretty dry, so we're getting a nice transparency there. Let's see what's going to happen if I do a little transparency action. Oh, that's pretty. I'm not loving that color. I'm going to grab some alizarin crimson. It was close to dry, so you're just getting a little bit of a bleed. Oh, I think I'm going to try that here too. And these are all techniques you're going to end up using. I'm going to make some just water circles. Grab some sap. Some Prussian. Look familiar? Ooh, look what happened here. My turquoise got completely invaded by Scarlet Lake. The fun thing is no two experiments like this will ever look alike. Yellow. Grab a little red. Just let it move around. I think I'm okay over here. Let me go back to my favorite Prussian blue. Boy, that Payne's gray was not dry. So you're getting a nice wet on damp effect. Prussian blue there. I need to rest my hand on something. Just touching the red a little bit. I'm going to take this over the turquoise too. See if I get a nice transparency. This is so meditative. Throw in some salt. I wonder what's going to happen. I'm going to carve. I'm going to carve some lines before I put down. The red paint from my brush was coming off. Color. Looks like I need a. Oh, what the heck? I'm going to do a light cobalt. I want to see what happens. Uh-oh, there went my saran wrap. Interesting. I think I'm going to use my saran wrap again. Where's my saran wrap? Let's try again. We could go this way. I've just about got a completely filled piece of paper. Pink. Let's tap in some other shades. I keep using that purple and or the violet, and it really flees. Some alizarin. Very buttery. Well, let's see what happens with ultramarine. Should make a nice purple. Boy, that one doesn't look very good, does it? Let's enhance it. Prussian. Now I'm going to tap in some indigo. Let's do some very indigo on indigo. I think we're almost done. I'm going to build another bridge right here with some panes. Nice. I think I need some gray over here, and then I'm going to be done. I'm going to toss some salt in there. Okay, I'll be back when this is dry, and we'll see what we can get. Well, I'm back. It's been a couple of hours, and believe it or not, the areas with the salt are still not dry as they gather moisture from the atmosphere. And let me tell you, this atmosphere is really damp. But what I did is I used my little #2 brush and some ink, and I doodled on top. And it's kind of fun. This is one of those instances where you just don't know when to stop, but I'm pretty happy with the results. So let me know what you think, and most important, when you're finished, you sign your name. Have fun with this one.